nigga seen a bitch get bad before.
What's good, everybody? What's good? It's your boy, Cardinal Bud Crawford, or E.S. Red, if that's what you want to call me. And we are back for another one. Alright, y'all. New topic. Who is the real boogeyman? Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Bud Crawford? Alright, y'all. So, on the road to a maybe fight. Maybe these two guys get it on, maybe they don't. Hopefully for boxing and boxing fans, we actually get this fight. But the further and further we get into 2022, it's looking highly unlikely this fight is going to actually happen. And what would be the reason this fight actually doesn't come to fruition? Would it be that Errol Spence is fearful of losing his 3 titles to what a lot of people believe is the real boogeyman, Terence Bud Crawford? Or is it that Terence Bud Crawford saw the damage that Errol Spence did to Yordenis Ugas, and he fears the real boogeyman, ESJ, Errol Spence Jr., and don't want to have them hands put on them sockets?
So what's up with Terence Crawford, y'all?
So, you know, who is the real boogeyman? Who has the better fight game out of these two? And could that be playing a role in why the fight hasn't come together? If you was to say which one of these guys was more of a scary type of fighter, like who would I fear getting in the ring with based off their last performance, would it be Terence Crawford because of what he did to Shawn Porter? You know, he got Shawn Porter's father to throw the towel in and got himself a technical knockout in the process. Or would it be Errol Spence Jr., who just rearranged Yordenis Ugas' face in less than 12 rounds and made the entire boxing world rethink what their feelings are about this fight? You know, everybody had to rethink this fight after seeing that Yordenis Ugas Errol Spence fight, because Errol Spence did show another level. He did show another gear.
A lot of people are wondering right now why the Terence Crawford ain't signed the contract.
He pretty much broke Yordenis Ugas' eye sockets all up and left him probably with some permanent damage. Will we ever see Ugas in a boxing ring ever again? You know, that's a good question. I'm not sure about that one. We may not. Could it be that Terence Bud Crawford is the real boogeyman? Could it be that Terence Bud Crawford just happens to have more talent than Errol Spence Jr. and have more boxing skill than Errol Spence Jr., have a better boxing IQ than Errol Spence Jr., and that Errol Spence Jr. knows better than to get in the ring with Terence Bud Crawford because he's more than likely not going to walk away with those 3 titles? Could that be the factor that's keeping this fight from coming to fruition? That he sees something in that Shawn Porter fight that made him rethink the whole undisputed talk and the whole undisputed idea?
You know, I got some good patience, but I'm starting to get a little suspicious. You hear me?
Me personally, I don't think so. I think Errol Spence is a huge welterweight. I don't think Errol Spence has a problem getting in the ring with anybody. I don't think Errol Spence is fearful of this fight. I think that Errol Spence is a smart guy, and that he realizes that this is probably the most money I'm going to make in the sport of boxing, is the Terence Crawford fight, and I need to get the most money. And here's the problem I don't think a lot of people understand. It's both ways in this. You know, Terence Crawford needs to get as much as he can get in case he loses, which I think he will, and Errol Spence needs to get as much as he can get off this fight, because this might be his biggest payday ever in the sport, and his only huge payday, because who's left after Terence Crawford? You know, nobody's left to fight after that.
What up with Terence Crawford, man?
You could fight Keith Thurman, but he's not going to make what he's going to make fighting Terence Crawford. He could fight Boots Ennis. He's not going to make what he's going to make fighting Terence Crawford. He could fight Virgil Ortiz. He's not going to make what he would make fighting Terence Crawford. The only other name I could think of where he'd pull a huge paycheck off of fighting them would be Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather. Both retired. Active fighters, you got Gennady Golovkin, you got Canelo Alvarez. Canelo's not coming down to 160, 155, 160 anytime soon to fight Errol Spence Jr. It's not going to happen. So I don't see that fight actually happening.
I told everybody, Terence Crawford seen that mustache, his tail went between his legs, and he got the wandering off. Gennady
Golovkin is a different story. I think he has a better shot at Gennady Golovkin than anybody. I think he could if Gennady was to go win this fight against Canelo, you could possibly see Triple G versus Errol Spence Jr. in the near future. That's if Charlo doesn't go after him first, because there's a chance that Charlo would fight Triple G if he was to beat Canelo, just for the clout, you know, the fame that'll come along with that. Because if Triple G wins this fight, then he's gonna get a lot of fanfare off of that, and I think his career will be reborn after that. Who would be left? You know, who's left that Errol Spence could face up with other than those names? You know, I really don't know. So at the end of the day, you know, if he doesn't fight Terence Crawford, there's really nothing left for him to do. The Keith Thurman fight doesn't really make a lot of sense at this point, even though, I mean, if they're desperate to put a fight on, if they have to put an Errol Spence fight on, it's possible, but I think you would more likely see Errol Spence face up with one of his mandatories.
In the midst of everything, right, I've been hearing rumors of Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman.
Other than Keith Thurman, he seems to really be adamant about not fighting Keith Thurman because Keith Thurman didn't give him his shot. So, you know, with all that being said, who's the biggest boogeyman in the welterweight division of boxing? Is it Errol Spence Jr.? Is it Terence Crawford? Who strikes fear in the hearts of these boxers? Errol Spence Jr. or Terence Bud Crawford? And I would say undoubtedly it's Errol Spence Jr. simply because of what he's accomplished as a welterweight. He has 3 titles. Terence Crawford has 1. He's fought better competition. He's faced up with better competition. He has the better resume. So if anybody's the boogeyman of the welterweight division, it's obviously Errol Spence Jr.
Terence Crawford might get sued or something for false advertisement. He was built up to be this boogeyman. I'm the boogeyman. How you the boogeyman when I'm chasing you?
And he has Terence Crawford, I think, disheveled at the moment and really backpedaling on most of what he said for the past year or 2 years about undisputed and wanting a shot at Spence and signing contracts. And at this point, I think Terence Crawford is afraid of the boogeyman. He is afraid of taking that loss. I'm hoping this fight happens this year, but it's looking unlikely. And I'm hoping they do what great fighters do. At least I'm hoping Errol Spence does what great fighters do and challenges himself, because there is still a Manny Pacquiao fight out there to be made if he can make it. There's a Boots fight out there, even though he doesn't make as much money for those, you know, the Boots fight, the Virgil fight, the Thurman fight. Pacquiao fight's a big money fight. But the rest of these fights that are left at welterweight, they're not big money fights. Some of them are good fights like Boots and Virgil, but they don't make you any money. So, you know, the best guy in the division, you should definitely be facing off with the best competition at this point and getting the biggest paychecks that you could possibly get. And, you know, it's sad, the state of boxing, but it is what it is. And, you know, Terence Crawford, Man, oh man, is Terence Crawford making himself look bad. Alright, y'all. It's your boy, Cardinal Bud Crawford, or E.S. Red, if that's what you want to call me. And I think I'm done rambling for now. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTubes. But you're more than likely to get a response on YouTubes than any of the other social media platforms. So holler at me over there. And I think we are ready.
Little pioneer got a body that shake like a wine.